So, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Half the Race Gone for the DirtenDK charity event organized by the Lazarus driver Sky Pigman. It is of course a charity event that supports, well, Drive to Cure. That is a non-profit organization founded by Andrew Lee, who well, besides being a petrol head, he was diagnosed with this rare type of kidney cancer as a 15-year-old, and his dad then realized his long-time dream of actually owning a Nissan GTR, and then they used this car to go around to track days to raise money and raise awareness on this very rare type of kidney cancer that Andrew was diagnosed with. And sadly, Andrew passed away not long ago, so rest in peace. Race in paradise, Andrew. We are celebrating you tonight with this event, and we've got some world-class talent on display. If you take a look at the entry list for tonight, some of the absolute best drivers around, and then coupled with some absolute YouTube streaming royalty. It's gonna be a night to remember, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to everyone who has joined us already here very early in proceedings. We are just about a couple of minutes into the qualifying session, the first of two 20-minute qualifying sessions. This for the LMP1 class. And the LMP1 class today is limited to one car, that is the Toyota TS050. So fair and square, a very balanced field, you can easily say. The GT3 qualifying session then follows, and the GT3 field comprised of Nissan GTR GT3s. So evening to Mika, evening to Hunty as well. It's nice to see you gentlemen tagging along so early. So let's just have a look at the driver lineup. We've been following Lewis Bentley, or Lazarus Lewis, around. He's just made his way out of the Mulsanne corner. He's heading down towards Arnage now. Second of the LMPs running. We have our very own People's Champion, that is ERT Stevie, the Iris Racing team driver in the 712 car, as we know and love him here. He's been a long time racer in races here on the channel, and therefore will probably be a favorite for me at least. We'll see how it goes for good old Stevie. TX3 represented in the LMPs by Manthi, the South African, and then Iris Racing team also with the very smooth and fast Dutchman, that is Olegna. And we've got formerly M. Thomas, now Lazarus Thomas, and I'm just gonna say Lewis and Thomas. Probably the easiest way around. Also running in the LMP1s alongside Steve Gaming of the Volex esports team. And nice to see VRS Stick along. Always mate, I hope you are doing well here as we are at half the week gone. It is Wednesday indeed. Now first cars finishing their warm-up laps. And let me just take you through the lobby settings, because that's always important. We've got tire and fuel consumption off for the qualifying session. We've got, for the race, we've got tires ×1 and fuel ×2. With damage just set to weak, so we're being lenient. There will be no losing minutes of time limping around the track at half speed. I think anyone who gets it wrong at any point in this race and has contact with the wall would certainly appreciate that. So the LMP1 field consists purely of, I can say purely, this race consists purely of top level drivers, we should say. We've got a couple of really streaming royalties in the form of one of the biggest sim racing streamers that exists, that's Super GT. And then one of, not to say that I'm not an avid fan of Super GT stuff, but one of my absolute personal favorite streamers, and that is Iris, who would I'd expect really to know this track. He just finished 24 hours of Le Mans in iRacing this weekend, so I'd expect I'd expect Rory to be well familiar with the track here. As mentioned, 20 minutes of qualifying. Lewis already having picked up half a second's worth of penalty here. Also, it just occurred to me that I, of course, just need to enter the PayPal link. So just a short second and I will provide you with the link to the PayPal in the description. The PayPal pool to where we are accepting donations. We'd love to see some donations if you can, and if you feel like donating to the cause. As I mentioned, just a second. Multitasking, not always my strong side. But here it is. Top the description, the PayPal link. There it is. So as I said, Lewis having picked up a penalty on his first lap. Stevie running cleanly so far. Let's go on board with the Iris racing team. Brit on his way through the Porsche curves. And then Virage Corvette. Oh, and he goes wide. He's probably going to pick up a penalty. There it is. Half a second's worth of penalty for ERT Stevie. Quickly gets rid of that one, of course. If you run over or across the line with a penalty, that's going to ruin your entire next lap as well. And that is not what you want to happen. 3:21.3. So here is Manthe, TX3 Manthe, and he's across the line in currently last position. We have Thomas on provisional pole so far. That is a respectable time, to say the least. 3:17.5, almost bettering Cooper Tom in second place by a second. Thanks, Kerr, and have fun with the race tonight. How's Slot tonight? Slots are filled, Brandon. An evening to Supreme as well. Great pace over that first lap from Cooper Tom. And as always, DirtenDK on Half the Race Gone, sponsored by ASMR. Coffee. Keeps you awake, keeps you talking, even though it's crap talking. I don't know. Let's hop on with Olegna. That's exiting the final chicane. He's 7/10 up on his personal best so far. Yo, Unaleska. Nice to see you, mate. And shame to hear about your disconnecting wheel. That's a big F from here. Yeah, Mika, the ASMR part of the channel, I feel like it's gone missing lately, so I had to bring it back. I had to bring it back, and I've brought it back, and it'll return. Oh, Unaleska. Such troubles when you're sponsored, huh? But nonetheless, And that is a damn shame. Here is Olegna getting it a little bit wide on the exit of the second part of Indian. That's Manthe sideways on the exit of Arnage as well. So he's already, he's also got that one quite wrong indeed. Steve Gaming on a good pace as well. He's third on grid at the moment. As I've mentioned before, Volex Esports doing a brilliant job of keeping it on point with the liveries. I really think every time I see these Volex liveries, they're just sharp. And a big shout out to whoever does these liveries for them. They do look the part. And Mika will donate 10 times the amount of peak viewers. So that's already 120 euros. Let's see, Mika. Let us see what it's gonna be. Here comes... Oh, Steve Gaming bins it on the exit from the Ford chicane. That's his lap gone. With 10.5 minutes of the qualifying gone as well. He lines up to get a proper shot at the next one. Ghosted out. Good, the stewards weren't there to see it. So the two Lazarus drivers, Lewis and Thomas, on top of things at the moment in this LMP qualifying session featuring these Toyota TSO 50s. And just a 1/10 of a second dividing the two. So that's Siamese twins pace in qualifying from those two. Cupid Tom hasn't put in a lap since that, but he's running a 5/10, half a second. That is, of course, penalty. Hello, Martin. How are you doing? I'm sure we have a couple of the drivers as well who would appreciate some frikandelbrotje. Talking about, of course, Olegna, Bellin as well. Hello. So what's up, Martin? Anyway, as I mentioned before, or by now, it's actually just 8 minutes remaining of this LMP qualifying session, and we could just have a quick look at the live timing board. So it is the two Lazarus drivers, Lewis and Thomas, on top. At the moment, at least, in front of Cuperton. Then it's Olegna Stevie, then Steve Gaming of Volex Esports, then TX3 Manthe. And the reason you're seeing Irius below that, he is in the GT3s. He is hanging out in the pits at the moment. And evening to Alba as well. Still following Cuperton. Here is Lewis on his way through the Porsche curves. Let's go on board with the Lazarus driver. Oh, that's every inch of track being taken advantage of. A late downshift through the final part of the Porsche curves. Then the Virage Corvette gets that completely straight on. It's perfect. So what's it gonna be? Braking very late into part one of the Ford chicane. Here the second part tries to take every bit of curb as well. But it's not gonna be an improvement whatsoever. It's a lap somewhat down on his best. There's a pink car and it's not you. Martin, my God. It's also going to be next lap for Thomas as well here, as Cuperton is also going to be looking to get rid of his penalty. He indeed does so. And only 8/10 down on his personal best. And of course, with a long lap as it is here at Sarthe, it certainly creates bigger gaps than you'd normally see, and that's also why it's incredible to see the top 2 cars divided by just a tenth of a second indeed. It's very, very, very close. Oh, and that looks like yet another lap squandered for Thomas. With that half a second penalty, it's gonna make it difficult to bring out the max in the lap. Yeah, the drivers have to let it be a way to get him to enforce track or to keep the track limits. Drivers have to donate €1 per track cut. And can I just say, after having had my first experiences with iRacing over the last couple of days, it is entertaining, it's fun, and it's sure as hell. I think Charles said it as well in our Discord. It's gonna be very hard to cancel that subscription now. Oh, they're getting close here. Oh, was that a little bit of a nudge? Argy-bargy nudge between those two. Here is Thomas. He's up by 6/10 of a second here as he exits Arnage. But he's with a 4/10 of a second penalty. Is he going to be able to get rid of the penalty while still keeping ahead of, well, both his own best and the best time set by teammate Lewis? Well, we're going to see he's on his way through the Porsche curves. Just a 10th of penalty running off there. But also dropping. Now what's it gonna be? Oh, he completely breaks it off. That's good sportsmanship indeed. Lewis just having started a new lap. 3 minutes left. So for those starting their laps now, this will be the final lap of qualifying for the LMP drivers, of course, that is. We still have the GT3 qualifying session to come after a short break in between the two. And yes, Mika, well, not for everything, but I have the PC now. I have Trials' old PC. Love you, Trials. And it sure is great. It sure is great indeed. But yeah, I'd love to try Assetto Corsa Competizione. But so the old Assetto Corsa, even as a sim racing experience, amazing. Anyways, we are in Gran Turismo Sport, and it is the LMP qualifying coming towards the pointy end. It's still Lazarus on top with Lewis and Thomas first and second. It's Cuberton sitting third at the moment, but just by a 10th in front of Olegna here as we're following the Dutchman sitting fourth at the moment, and just 2/10 of a second further down is German Volex driver Steve Gaming. And then it's ERT Stevie and TX3 Manthe rounding off the LMP1 field for the time being. Still could change on this lap, although Olegna I think has lost a lot of time on it. Let's see, Steve Gaming, he's on a personal best. So he could be crawling up the order if he doesn't pick up any penalties here. It's just by a 10th of a second, so he needs to find a little more time to jump ahead of Olegna. boys. He got a little bit of a squirmy moment on the exit of Mulsan corner that might have compromised his lap because it's really on the marginals. It's on the marginals. It's on the marginals. It's on fine margins indeed. Hey, what's good, Tetsu? Good, I think what is good afternoon for you at this point. But anyways, nice to see you, mate. Hurry home, Mika, and we'll see you soon as well. Good evening to everyone joining right around now, here as we're nearing the end of the qualifying session for the LMP1s, with just about 20 minutes of racing gone, or qualifying gone, as Sky Pikmin calls it right about there. Qualifying session is over. So far, no one really to challenge the 1-2 from Lazarus. Cubertom is on a personal best, but he's also with that penalty. So the lap is not going to count for him, I think. It isn't. Olegna takes fourth. Steve Gaming, oh, with a penalty. So that means he's not going to bump down Olegna, that's for sure. Stevie 6th and Manthe in 7th position. Let's just have that on the timing board. There it is. Close stuff between the Lazarus boys indeed. And then a little bit of a gap. A short second to Cubertom. And then it's indeed close between 3rd, 4th and 5th. All within 0.3 of a second. Then a further 0.3 down to Stevie. That's a 3:19 dead for him. And then Manthe with a 3:20.9 for his best lap. We break. P break. It's quick. It's now. No, but you might... but there's another qualifying session, so it's not that critical one. So we're gonna have a track reset. And then we're gonna see the GT3s. And here it is, GT3s joining the track. We have well, we have an entire second part of the grid to go through that we haven't even spoken about at all. We've done 20 minutes of talking about the LMP1 grid. And as we've seen, the two Lazarus drivers there, Lewis and Thomas, putting on a pace hard for the others to match. So let's see if they can keep that up over the course of the race. Now in the GT3 class, in these Nissan GTR GT3s, we have also a very regular face here on the channel by now. It is... I was just about to call him the king of baguettes. It is Shoma 74, the Frenchman, the AS Monaco Pro driver. We have Kerr 187, a very nice gold pink F Cancer livery. Really gotta say I like that one. We have Erie's driver ERT Bellin, self-proclaimed king of Belgium. And I guess you'll have to discuss that with the Warp Speed Wake. Perhaps Fred do it as well. But no, seriously, Bellin, probably the fastest Belgian, at least the fastest Belgian I've seen so far. And then, of course, organizer of this entire event, Lazarus Sky Pikmin. Or as in proper French, Ski Pikmin. We had a good laugh about that at some point. From TX3, it is Stefancy. Here closely followed by Iris himself. As mentioned, favorite streamer of mine, really enjoy that content. And then last to exit the pits, it is the star himself. It is Super GT. So yet another qualifying session to come. And who do we expect to do well here? Well, it's actually a tough one to call. What did I say? Sky Pigman, probably one of the strongest Group 3 drivers around. And of course the World Finals Manufacturers Champion. And here is the first runner of the GTs at the moment, Chomar. He's making his way towards the Porsche curves. He's letting Kerr through on him and just making sure that he gets that clean track space. And maybe he wants a little bit of slipstream for the Mulsanne straight on the following lap. And Brandon in chat is, of course, Dynamic Carbon. Not Cabron. Just Carbon. So here it is, the first couple of cars getting along with their first qualifying laps. 20 minutes. Well, it was 20 minutes. There's 16 of them remaining, and it is just about 4 minutes a lap. That's what we expected for the GT3s. Up through Dunlop. And I think Chomar might have made a little bit of a mistake because he seems to be getting a little too close to the rear end of Kerr in front for comfort at least. There isn't really too much more time to gain when he's that close in front. Yeah, getting a little insidery there with Brandon. A good slipstream for Chomar, that is. And he's going to be able to pick up some extra speed. The question is he going to go for an overtaking move? He certainly is. Ooh, that's a twitchy one. Trials would not approve. And then dives into the first chicane in front. Question is, are they gonna just assist each other throughout this lap, Kerr and Chomar? Because we might see the Brit getting back at him. Let's go on board with Kerr 187. Getting that strong slipstream, timing the overtake perfectly just before the braking zone, so it's not gonna cost him any sort of time. Either him or Chomar as well, so that's perfectly played indeed. Now Chomar's in a little bit of a tight squeeze here. Let's go back with Bellin. That ERT liveried machine. Super GT seeming to get it a little wide through the second of the two Mulsanne chicanes. Evening to Giants Nation. Good evening and welcome. Of course, plenty of attempts for the drivers here to get it right if they get anything wrong here, but what you want for a first lap in a qualifying session of this duration is always just to get in some kind of safe banker. Problem is, of course, that, well, a safe banker at this level, that means going 99.9993 instead of 9999%. I mean, the difference, the margins are so small indeed. Oh, and then getting it into the gravel trap through the second part of Indianapolis. That's Iris with a little bit of a moment, I think, as well. Let's join the first couple of laps actually being set here. That's Chomar and Kerr having changed position yet again. And that's Chomar with a 3:53.4. So he's managed to make his best of being close. Oh, but look at that. Sky Pigman with a 53.6, 2/10 down. And then Bellin further 3/10 down, so close here on the first laps already. Now, of course, a warm welcome to everyone joining us for the GT3 qualifying session. We're getting close to the 10-minute marker here. We're gonna get the qualifying session over with. There's gonna be a short break, and then it's gonna be race time indeed. Ooh, Sky Pigman picks up a half-a-second penalty, so that's gonna ruin his lap. Same goes for Bellin. Do know here in GT Sport, the track limits around the Sarthe are absolutely brutal, and I think anyone who's tried it themselves know that it's possible to make it work, but the slightest misjudgment coming into a corner is going to serve you with one of these penalties, and it's brutal indeed. So Chomar seems to be the only one of these drivers not running with a penalty. Kerr doesn't run a penalty at the moment as well. Super GT set to improve. But it wouldn't take too much to improve upon the first lap. On board here into the first chicane. Difficult braking zone. And it's a lot of ask for the front wheels, with a lot of slowing down and a lot of steering to do at the same time. Manages to do well here, and he's up on his personal best. It might have been before he had that mistake on the final lap, so it's going to be interesting to see where he actually ends up with a good lap here. Second chicane. Looks quite dialed. Almost going wide, it seems. Not sure if that's gonna be a penalty or not, but it seems Super GT has avoided it. He certainly has. Here's Iris. Iris. He certainly is, and he is on his way down to Indianapolis. Evening to Manthe. And best of luck for the race. And there it is, Indianapolis, that two-part corner. And then down towards the slowest point on the track. Anaj Iris always, or also, I should probably say, on a personal best. And we're having the rest of the pack is coming down towards the start-finish line. Let's see what it's gonna be for Chomar this time around. Could be a tough ask to improve on that 53.4, but he certainly does. I'm quite sure he certainly does. That's a 52.9. And then goes half a second up on his own personal best. Pigman's off pace. Bellin is third. but he didn't improve on his own personal best on that lap as well. Let's see Kerr, what's it gonna be for him? Oh, he has also just started a new one, of course. So back with the Super GT and let's go on board. Virage Corvette, don't get it wide. I think that's gonna be half a second's worth of penalty. Yeah, oh, that's an entire second. That's rough on Super GT indeed. He'd do wisely to get rid of it before the line. It's gonna ruin his next lap if he doesn't. I'm quite sure at least. Perhaps not, perhaps not. And evening to Stevie. Oh, yeah. Mika, we had 49 at some point, so it's going up. It is going up. Yeah, it's gonna be a big one out of your pockets, mate. So, it is Shomar leading this GT qualifying session at the moment by 6/10 of a second to Sky Pigman, whom we're watching at the moment, on his way down the Mulsanne Straight. Then it's a further 3/10 of a second down to ERT Bellin. It's Kerr 187 in 4th. It's TX3 Stefonsi 5th in class. Super GT 6th at the moment with Iris 7th in class. Man, I should have. It's your first time watching Half the Race Gone. Well, do mash that thumb up button, and if you feel like it, well, feel very free to subscribe to the channel as well and hit the bell icon if you want to get notified of when we do more of these types of live streams. Oh, you're close traffic for that's I think that's Kerr, Bellin, and Shomar, and that's through Indy and Anash, of course. I think Kerr whips off there to give the space for Bellin, who's on a flying lap. He's quite quick. He was up by half a second before. An evening to Ayrton. Nice to have you along, mate. And I'm quite sure it is going to be quite something of a race indeed. I am for one, very much looking forward to it. Bellin still up on his personal best by half a second, so if he keeps that up, that time is gonna put him on provisional 2nd place in class. It's gonna put him on front row in class. Just remains to be seen if it's gonna work out or not for him. Just got the 4 chicanes left to do. Throws the car into the first one. Let's go on board for the second one. Cuts as much as humanly possible. Uses all of the track for the exit. Oh, that's a good time from Bellin. 53.3. And only 3.5 tenths down on the current pole time set by Shomar. That's some good stuff from the Iris Racing team driver. Good evening to GT Alex. What a pleasure. It always is. Of course, Alex, one of the organizers of the IGTL, of which we have a race weekend. We haven't had one of those for months. I think the last one was in March, if I'm not completely mistaken. Well, the IGTL is coming back, and it's gonna be bigger and better than ever before. Stay tuned for news on that. It's gonna be the last weekend here in June. It's gonna be all 3 days of the weekend, so that's... Let me get out the calendar. 28th, 29th, and the 30th, of course. Yeah, it's gonna be a busy weekend for us streamers, but it's also gonna be a weekend with a lot of action, a lot of drama is usually what the IGTL spells. Of course, with a level of drivers that you'd find only in a few other places on GT Sport. Best of British is up there. This race is very much up there as well, level-wise. This is absolute top class indeed. That's Sky Pikmin. He's 4 thousandths of a second down on his own personal best time. That's very, very, very close to indeed. Super GT with yet another improvement. And he has certainly improved. Oh, and he's 4 tenths up, so that's looking good. It's looking very good indeed. Yes, 1.2 seconds to make up on Kerr 187. I guess he really could use a bit of slipstream here down this long, lonely Mulsanne straight. Yeah, NES, AM, and IGTL is 2 different things. Well, clean driving, that excludes Mika. I'm just kidding, of course. Mika is a good friend of ours. He's a good community member. He's a good kid. He's a good boy. Anyway, that's Super GT. Further improvement for him as he exits Mulsanne corner. He's now 6.5 tenths up on his personal best. He's half the way gone. He wants to make up that 1.2 deficit that he has at the moment on Kerr 187. It's still Shomar, it's still Bell in second with Lazarus, Sky Pikmin in third. It's TX3 Stefonsi in fourth. It's Kerr in fifth, as mentioned, then Super GT and Iris, and it's close also between Super GT and Iris with less than a second separating those two at the moment. Yeah, Mika, at 18, you're still kind of a kid, I have to admit. Sorry, but not sorry. Alex, tell him. Super GT making his way down through the Porsche curves yet again. First one, always difficult to deal with the understeer. And then here, as you have to gradually slow down towards the late apex and then bring the speed down enough not to go wide in horrible understeer through Virage Corvette. And Super GT manages so this time around. Oh, you have Calster along, then it doesn't get much younger than that, does it? It's the symbol of youth. If you look up youth in the dictionary, you'll find I have no idea what Calster looks like, but it's just become a joke in itself, hasn't it? Oh, here comes Super GT, goes 4th fastest, improves by 2 seconds. That's a brilliant lap from Super GT, and it's not that I'm surprised, of course, knowing that his talents are up there indeed. We have seen him being very, very fast, especially since he got that wheel. But 4th fastest, that is impressive indeed. And 22 thousandths or 200ths of a second up on Stefonsi. That's close if you, if ever close existed. And that puts Iris last in class, I think. Martin is indeed doing the IGTL, the Saturday race, I think, alongside Wake. It's gonna be representing the TSR racing team. Of course, also good friends of us here on the channel, so we will be cheering them along for the Saturday's race. Still just a 10th of a second now between Shoma and Sky Pikmin, who's picked up the pace. He's taken second at the moment. So it's up to Bellin to fight back. It's really close now between, we have top 3 in the GT class. And they're all within 0.2 of a second. And that's impressive indeed. So this is the last lap. Last chance indeed. Martin, that's it, Mr. Alvarez Bruyne. Steve de Bruyne. And actually, it's gotten to the point with the Dutch Flemish accents that I've been called out for being, like in chat somewhere else, for being a Dutch race commentator, which I'm most certainly not. I'm Danish. I have a fondness for things Dutch, Flemish, things to do with cycling, French fries, beer, chocolate, cycling, racing as well. Huge in Belgium. Tom Bonen. What can I say? But I think it's a lot of fun though. Brian, huh? He's nice, huh? He's really nice, huh? He's a nice guy, huh? He's a nice streamer, huh? He does quality content, huh? You look at this guy, huh? He's talented, huh? He's always talking while he's driving, huh? I like it ain't no thing, huh? I'll stop with that. I forget the fricandel brooches, huh? But I cannot keep speaking about this thing every time I'm talking, huh? And as I do the imitation, Belen grabs third in the end here, it seems. Super GT fourth, Stefansi fifth. It's Kerr in sixth, and that's just a second down on the whole time. And then we have Iris in seventh, a little bit off the pace. It's actually true, Martin. It's actually true. It's not too much wrong with that assumption. Of course, this is a charity event for for Drive to Cure. And if you feel like it, we have a PayPal pool where you can donate. Of course, Drive to Cure being a non-profit organization founded by Andrew Lee, who got diagnosed with a rare kidney cancer age 15. And his dad then let him live out his dream, got him a Nissan GTR, and they took it track day driving. They took it out, used it to raise money and awareness for this rare type of cancer, which is called something. I can look it up. Actually, it's I actually don't remember. That's too bad. But anyways, it's a very noble cause, and if you feel like it, well, and if you can, please consider a small donation. We have the qualifying session ended. What's that? So qualifying is over, and we have a short break now for the GT drivers to have a chance to just do the necessities. And I think it'll be a short 10-minute break before we'll have the race starting in not too long. And chat has gone 100% Dutch by now. Rest in peace to both Belen and Stevie in the lobby. What happened to him? Blue screen? Oh. Let's hope we don't have a corrupt lobby by now. Let's hope PD haven't brought up any new updates. With that last update, it seems to have been a little bit of a thing, at least with some of the later updates that we've got, that they've brought in some issues indeed, and that's not really what we want to see. Let's see if anyone is... We have Thomas, the Lazarus driver, taking to track. And that means we can join him for a lap, a show lap around La Sarthe. And this is how it's done in an LMP car on GT Sport. maybe even going a little too wide. Indeed, going a little too wide through Tête Rouge. So easy to do that as well. So easy to pick up that little bit of a penalty. It's gonna cost you in the long run. Penalty rules for this race are that drivers are allowed to build up to 1.5 seconds of penalty. When they get to that, they are forced to rub it off, so to say. And just having not, yeah, that, you get it. So 1.5 seconds of penalty is the max that the drivers are allowed to run with. Simply, I think, just mostly because it's so easy to pick up these penalties here at La Sarthe. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all you wonderful people watching here on Half the Race Gone tonight, as I mentioned shortly, or not long ago, we're having a short break before the race right about now. So, if you need to pick up the snacks, the refreshments, that necessity of a natural break perhaps, well, now is the time. If you don't want to miss any of the action coming up, we've got 2 hours of multi-class action to come here from the Circuit de la Sarthe. I can't take it that every single person in here has been over on this channel before to watch an episode of Dirt and Rally to know about what I'd exactly mean by that. Through the dip that is Indianapolis, the first part. That's another place where it's really easy to pick up a penalty, actually, on that inside when you cut the first kink, the high-speed kink in the braking zone there, because you want to straight line it as much as humanly possible to place the car right for that 90-degree left-hander that follows. Thus, it's really easy, and it's, pardon my French, but it's pissed me off properly on multiple occasions when doing official races here from La Sarthe. So a final warm-up session, this could be considered. Hey, Cliche! What a pleasure. Nice to have you along. How are you doing, mate? At least I know I'm fine. I'm mighty fine. I'm feeling good. And I've been... Oh, Schumacher puts it into the wall there on the exit of the Porsche curves. But, we're getting close to it. The race start, that is. Here is Lewis, Mr. Lewis Bentley, Lazarus Lewis, that is. Our pole sitter in the LMP class in front of teammate Lazarus Thomas. Those two were just a tad above the rest of the LMP field, at least on qualifying pace. So it'll be interesting to see if it's the same kind of the same kind of pattern we'll see emerging for the race. Oh yeah, cliche. Yeah, they do a good job. Who is it that makes those liveries? Is it Fubu? Do you know who makes those liveries actually? Remember to have read it somewhere not too long ago, but they do look good. The ERT liveries and the new gen of them look even better than the last one. Oh, Hansa, of course. Here's Thomas crossing the line for his first flying practice lap. We're getting closer and closer to the race start, and with that said, just getting asked if all are ready, and that means we are getting, well, very close indeed to race start. It's right about now that it's all happening. The 2 hours of racing that we have ahead of us are just about to get underway, given that everybody gives the ready confirmation. Man, what a field packed with talent that is. I think we're in for quite the treat. Go sign given. And with that, I'm giving my voice a final rest because I imagine it to be a hectic start that we're in for. It usually is. And with 2 classes to keep check up, it's gonna be a whole lot of action on the first time down all the way to and down the Mulsanne Straight. And then of course, being a multi-class race, well, usually it's about half an hour. It'll take a little bit less perhaps for the LMPs to begin catching the GTs around here, and that's of course going to spice things up as well, especially if we still have people close battling when we get that far. It also really is my favorite kind of racing to commentate upon, multi-class. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the final getting underway, the race itself. 2 hours of Le Mans. It is Driven to Cure, the charity event. It is safety car of warm-up lap, of course, driven by another one of the IGCL organizers alongside Chomar, alongside Alex and streamer Aveup. It is, of course, my fellow Dane, Kenni, the Monaco Pro. So here it is, the 2 fields underway for the warm-up lap. Pace set at around, I think it's a max speed of actually up to around 200 kilometers around an hour. So I think we could just see the cars going quite quickly actually, and fair play, fair game to that, because a warm-up lap at 120 kilometers an hour, I think it'll be something around 8 minutes to get around here. So I think we can just be happy that that they have a little more impetus about them. Now let's go over the grid once again, shall we? On pole position in the LMPs, it is Lazarus Lewis. He put that car, that Toyota TS050, put that on pole a 1/10 of a second in front of a Lazarus teammate Thomas, formerly M. Thomas. That is Cooper Tom in 3rd position, first car on the 2nd row in the LMPs, with the Erie's driver Olegna in 4th. We have Volex driver Steve Gaming in 5th position in class. Another Erie's driver, that's Stevie, the People's Champion here on Half the Race Gone. He's 6th in class. Then we have TX3 Manthe rounding off the LMP field. And then on pole in the GT class, it is Shoma, sporting a livery with a picture of himself, of course. And then the car to accompany him on the front row, that's Sky Pickman, our organizer for tonight, of the Lazarus team as well. It's ERT Bellin and Super GT on row 2. It's TX3 Stefonsi and it's Kerr 187 on row 3. And then lone row 4, it is Iris himself. So let's go on to the wang cam here from the safety car. It is a threatening view indeed. There is quite a lot of horsepower on display behind these cars. And I think what we're effectively gonna see is this becoming a 1 hour and 53-minute race with this around about 6-minute warm-up lap. I think Kenny very much aware that he needs to keep up the pace also for the tires to be able to be kept warm. And if they didn't change that, they're running tires times 6 and fuel times 2. I think that's what it ended up being with racing mediums. I think we're going to be seeing quite a bit of pit stops on that account. And that certainly wasn't what was called out was tires times 1, fuel times 2. But a little bit of a troll, I guess. Of course, if we have anyone having actually seen that, perhaps one of the drivers, maybe even, perhaps Junaleska knows if he's still in chat to confirm whether that's true or not. I can only check our official rulebook. That says times 1, times 2, and I'm quite sure that's not what Kenny said it to. So, it's gonna have to be unknown here. The field now making their way through the Porsche curves, and that means the warm-up lap is coming towards an end. I think we'll be seeing the GTs fall a little bit behind. Albeit would be a grand sight to behold. To have the safety car wiping out, just touching a bit of grass, getting wide and getting out of control, fishtailing, slamming into the wall. Well, it wasn't to be. Safety car breaks off. Lazarus Lewis now controls the field through the Ford chicane. The LMP ones stacked up, the GT3s right behind. And let's see, here it is. It is green, green, green. And there are some Nissan GT3s looking very big, almost BMW M8-ish, meme-ish in the background. And Lazarus Lewis leads the way safely, so far at least. Let's see, into turn 1. Oh, his teammate M. Thomas makes a little bit of contact to the rear end of Lewis's car, but he keeps it composed. Picks up a little bit of a penalty. That is, I think, not what those two had in mind for the opening moments of the race. Chomar still leading, Sky Pigman and Bellin, so status quo in the top 3 of the GTs as well. They seem to all have gotten cleanly his way as well, and that is just what we want to see. No real pile-ups or crazy incidents taking anyone out of contention here on lap 1. And having said that, that last one, oh, that's of course the safety car. So no worries, it is of course all good here as we have action for the LMP field down on the first time through the Mulsanne straight. Let's see, it's Thomas taking the lead in front of Cubertom, following him along. Oh, as Thomas goes a little wide through the first part of the Mulsanne chicane. Or the first chicane on the Mulsanne straight as the GT field. Now getting into that very same chicane, Super GT, having had a brilliant start. He's up in second. Look at this. And there's a pack of hungry wolves behind him. He's in a difficult place. He's out of the slipstream, it seems. But he does have a little bit of a run on Shoma. And I think he's going to be having a tough time defending, of course, the race cannot really be won here on lap 1, but it can easily be lost. Cubertom leading the LMPs in front of Thomas and Lewis, the two Lazarus drivers. It is then the two ERT drivers with Stevie Olegna, or Olegna and Stevie, and then Steve Gaming, the Volex driver in, well, it was 6th. He's just gotten around Stevie here on the outside with a move through Mulsanne corner. I had to say, that's a brilliant one. Let's go on board with ERT Stevie here. Oh, just not enough space for him to get through both. Closely squeezed in there. Each class 1 make indeed, Alex. So that's the reason of so many GTRs. And indeed also the reason why everyone's in the Toyota TSO 50 here in the front field. But of course this is to keep things balanced. To make it so that it's the driver's performance that shines through. So Cubertom leading, 2 Lazarus drivers. Then it's Olegna, Steve Gaming, Stevie and Manthe. And that is the running order of the LMP field at the moment. Then in behind it is Shomar, closely gone. Oh, we've had some kind of issue because Super GT has gone straight to the back of affairs. And I imagine that either he must have had some issue before this, or yeah, it's been before this, so luckily it's not put him completely out of contention. It's still a closely bunched pack here in the GT field, but he was running 2nd last time we checked in. So I got a little bit worried for a second that he'd gone off to Narnia to use one of his own phrases, that is. Evening, Jimmy. And the stream start was indeed an hour earlier. Then we had 2 20-minute qualifying sessions, a little bit of a break in between, a little bit of a break after. And that's race start right about now. We've had the first lap done. We've had the second lap done now as well. We're on effectively on lap 2 at the moment. And it's Cubertom leading Lazarus. Thomas goes a little wide. Same goes for Thomas. He's going to pick up a penalty there, I'm quite sure. Lewis is not in the slipstream. And then the same Olegna behind. Neither is he. Let's go on board with Steve Gaming in the Volex car, because he does have the slipstream run on Olegna in front. I think he's just going to be a tad too far back to attempt anything. And I think he agrees with me because he doesn't try any fancy Ricciardo-ish deep lunge here. And that's probably all the wiser, given that the race practically just having gotten underway. The GT field though still being really close. Let's check out the wang cam from the car of Shomar. And that snake of GTRs as Sky Pigman gets a really good run, but he chooses just to bump drift along. As Sky Pigman takes the lead into the first chicane. Behind these two it's Kerr 187. We have Bellin in 4th in the GT class at the moment, still really close. And then it's Stefansi in that's 12th overall. And that's of course 5th in class. He's closely followed by Super GT at the moment. Let's go on board with Mr. Steve Brown. As you can see, Super GT aiming to get the superior exit on Stefansi. Wise move, because he does have the run on him and he's close enough. I think he will be able to make some kind of move materialize on his way down to us. That's going to be an easy one. Easy pickings. Up into 5th he goes. Well, Jimmy, the liveries are all, I think most of them made for the event with the F Cancer. Driven to Cure in mind. But I have to agree with you. It's not TSR level. That's true. So Thomas really latching on to the back of Cuber Tom, who got a little bit of a poor exit. But stays in front on the way down to Dunlop. Thomas also with a 9/10 of a second penalty. Lewis in third. Still very much in contention as well. We have Steve Gaming in fourth. Leading to Mart Menir. And then it's Olegna in fifth position. Manthy sixth. And then Stevie having dropped out a little bit. Dropped down the order into seventh place. Almost getting wide. He manages to keep that tire on the outside curb, and I think that is what keeps him from picking up that penalty there. So you are allowed to just keep the right-hand tires upon it, but it is still an exercise in precision. Yes, Smart Menir, you are seeing a Dutchman in the form of ERT Olegna. And if I'm not completely mistaken, we're talking about one of the fastest Dutchmen in the world of GT Sport, if not the fastest Dutchman in the world of GT Sport. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Look at the pack of cars Chomar is defending from. We're gonna join in with Kerr 187. He's in fourth position in the GT class. And it's quite some hefty traffic in front of him. Oh, Bellin chops it out. Gets a little bit of a helping hand there from Kerr, who also wants to go past indeed. And all this going side by side, that's gonna allow Super GT to get back on. A little bit of ghosting. Almost looking to go 3 wide, and Sky Pikmin, he thinks something along the same lines there, as Chomar goes a little squittishly there through that second chicane. And that in turn allows Bellin to take the lead. So ERT Bellin now leading the GT class in front of Chomar. And it's Sky Pikmin and Kerr 187 that follows. And the more they'll battle up here, well, the bigger the chances that the 3 following drivers are just going to be catching up quite shortly indeed. Now, what we're seeing with the LMPs at the moment, Hubert Tom and then Thomas and Lewis, the 2 Lazarus drivers, making a little bit of an advantage for themselves over the rest of the LMPs. Still a close call between these 3, and then it's 4 seconds down to Steve Gaming. It's another 2.5 seconds down to Olegna. Let's see, Manthy has picked up a penalty. It's around 1.5 seconds down on Olegna, and he's got Stevie for quite close company. Stevie, if he's in with the slipstream Zook on the Mulsanne Straight, there'll be no doubt that he'll be around the backside of Manthy. Although he does manage to just, I think, lose that tail of the slipstream. So that's poor timing indeed. Cooper Tom, I think he's going to have a hard time defending from Thomas this time around, as the Lazarus driver does indeed jump ahead and take the lead into the first Mulsanne chicane. I'm going to check back in with the GT battle there for the lead as they go into the Porsche curves. It's still Bellin. He's holding on in front of Chomar, Kerr, and Sky Pikmin, of course. And then we can hear the roar of the engine of Super GT and Stefanci in the background, so they're still close indeed. And indeed, Mart Menir La Sarthe is a fantastic track. And it's a very unique track as well. I think you don't really find another racing circuit these days, at least, that has this type of dynamics with the extremely long straights. So many overtaking opportunities. And also setting up cars quite, well, it's quite different than any other track. Basically, it's Kerr getting a little squishy there on the exit. So much close racing between these four. As I think it is actually Kerr who got a little bit loose, and that's in turn costing both himself and Sky Pigman some time. A little bit of touch. That was touch and go, and they went to go, and no problem in the end for Kerr and Sky Pigman. Although a little bit of RG barging. Super GT now catching up. He's also trying to just leave Stefansi behind and focus on the battle in front. He's doing a good job of it at the moment. Just to hop on with the F4H driver. What's that by now, F4H? Don't remind it to be F4H anymore. I think that's old news. Or is it? What a battle we've had the opening 15 minutes or so of the race. It's been great all the way through so far, with action at, well, more or less every second. It's been hard to just even look away from any of the lead battles, because it hasn't really settled in any way at all. Here is Lewis chasing Cubertom, quite close but not close enough for a move into Dunlop. There it is. Both of them getting cleanly through, of course. The exit of Dunlop, a place that's easy to lose that rear end of the car. Although I'd have to say that it does help with these four-wheel drive LMP1 hybrids. We can just seem to mash the throttle as soon as the car is pointing in the right direction. With the older LMP, well, even normal LMP1s, the even older LMP 900s, the GT1s, and especially the Group C cars, you had to be extremely careful on corner exit on that exact point. Of course, from Mulsanne corner and from Anache as well. Top 3 battle still close in the LMPs. You're on board with the Wang Cam of Cubertom in the very, very British racing green TSO 50. And of course, a very warm welcome to any newcomer who might have joined since we started the race. A little bit of a bump draft to allow Lewis to gain that extra speed and perhaps allow both of these drivers to catch up to Thomas in front. So no teamwork, it seems. At least not any apparent teamwork between the two here. Bellin defending from Shoma. Those two have gotten an advantage, I think, down to the two following cars at least. Wang Cam time from the ERT car of Bellin, the Aries racing team. An effort that I've applauded on many occasions, and I'll gladly do so again. I really think it's nice to see, especially because it seems that it's all been born out of a good community and good friendship, having a good laugh, and then becoming competitive over time. And just, you know, seems like they have a lot of fun, these guys. And I, with all this esports being pro and such, I think it's nice to see somebody taking it serious and still managing to have fun. I think, of course, not to say that others aren't managing to have fun at all, but as with all sports, when the level gets high enough, what you're seeing is both the competitors and teams, for that sake, being more and more results oriented, and that's not always. That can kill some of that fun spirit. I think you know what I mean. It's not to talk down on anyone. It just appeared to me that I might be sounding like I'm trying to talk down on someone. I most certainly am not. But good job on the Irius boys. Anyways, and speaking of Irius, how is he doing? Oh, he's been put off the back of the GT bunch, it seems. He's off the back by 8 seconds at the moment, down on Kerr, and he's picked up a penalty. And it's a long race, and a lot can still happen. It's by no means completely out of it yet, although it seems that it's a big advantage to have just kept on in contact with the worm of cars, the snake of cars in front. We're watching Kerr 187, the battle for the lead of the GT class. It's still going on between Shoma and Bellin, and I think it's still Bellin hanging on, but by a bumper's width. It's really close between himself and Shoma. Let's go on board with the Frenchman indeed. As we've had a change in the lead in the LMP class, it's now Cubertom leading Lewis, and then Thomas in third position. Now packing a 1.4 second penalty. So no more penalties for him, or he will be, by race rules, forced to get rid of it. So by now, as we're getting close to the first 25% of this race time done, it seems the LMPs are beginning to settle into something that resembles a racing order now. Cubertom leading the two Lazarus cars, and it's Steve Gaming in fourth. It's Alegna and Stevie, and then TX3 Manthe. Here's the Rolex car, the 93 car. And Jimmy, you were a little critical of the liveries of some of the other liveries. I have to say, look at this one. I've already said this earlier on in the stream, but whoever makes the liveries for the Volex esports team does a very good job. I've seen liveries on several cars, several classes, several different takes on liveries on the Super Formula car that ran in the TSR Super Formula series, and they were all on point. Edgy, but still classy, modern, but not too much. I think this really strikes a cool balance. I like that. So enough livery talk, let's get back to racing talk indeed. Here it's Stevie and Manthe very close in that battle for 6th position. 6th. And it's still close as ever also between Shoma and Bellin as they start their 7th lap of racing. Shoma now taking over the lead yet again, is back leading. And as mentioned, it's Bellin, then it's Sky Pikmin. He's just biding his time in 3rd position. Then Stefonsi now having gotten past on Super GT. See if there's anything we can do to get a view on that. Certainly not. He's now running 4th, Super GT 5th. And those two still quite close actually to the trio of cars in front. And it wouldn't take a lot for him to get within the slipstream to be able to just claw that final bit of time back to bring themselves really into contention. It's fantastic to see that they're still running so close to one another. No real mistakes have been made between any of these cars in the GT class. And indeed, the level of competition for this race is high. It's very high indeed. That's both Stefonsi and Super GT getting a little twitchy on that corner exit. Now they've managed to somewhat dispose of Kerr 187 in behind. And here is Irius. And he's, I'm afraid, he's had some kind of issue as he goes wayward on the outside, on the exit of the first Mulsanne chicane. gets a big slide on. I think his tires are, or they might be dying. Those rears really are getting tired. That's a bad joke indeed. If ever I heard one, and I came up with it myself even. I don't know if I came... Somebody probably said it before me, but you get what I mean. That's sometimes the thing with not having English as your maternal language. One thing is you tend to swear a lot, and that's something that I've only become more thoughtful of on my older years, I was about to say, but since my mid-20s or so, I started swearing a bit less in English because I realized that to the Brits, it's really offensive. That's 18 seconds down, and that's that times 6 tire wear we're feeling the effects of as the LMPs are lapping the GTs by now, and this is Cubertom having to lead that 4-car snake that's now actually a 5-car snake that I believe with Chomar, Bellin, and then that is the entire snake, yeah. Stefonsi, Super GT, and that's Bellin, Sky Pigman, and Chomar, so one leader lapping another. And Lewis is still very close. He's the only one who's managed to stay in touch with Cubertom, who really seems to have a race pace that's very impressive indeed. Tire wear and everything taken into consideration. Seems he's been super steady. Now many known faces for all GT Sport fans and knowers in here. So who do you say are gonna win this one, chat? What are your picks? And do you have any favors or favored ones, I should say? Don't hold back. Cheer him on in chat. Oh, as LSR Thomas almost gets it wide, and there's a big snake. That's Steve Gaming. Hello, Quentin. Good evening to you. Olegna, the first LMP to pit in. I think the first car of the race to pit in. He's in here. He's got 47% of his fuel tank left. And I imagine they're gonna brim that one. No, not even. 2/3 of a tank as he leaves the pit. Now 7th in class, of course, as you'd expect. Character creator, yes, they are only racing its TSO 50s, but you're correct indeed. But it is to keep it balanced. Because with the BOP, it's simply it's really difficult to make them close enough to each other, and you're always going to have some cars that are stronger on tire wear and then that's going to be the main difference. Just look how big these GTRs look compared to the Toyotas. I mentioned this earlier, but it does almost look like some kind of a BMW M8 meme. We're watching Sky Pigman. He's taken the lead of the GT3s. And thanks, Nello Johnson. I appreciate the kind words. It is Stefonsi. He's picked up that 1 second penalty. Super GT is really impressed. He's picked up the pace. Really clawed himself back into contention, just hanging on to the slipstream and biding his time, taking it easy, being able to save both fuel and tires. Oh, that's a tricky one indeed. Super GT almost gets it wayward on the exit of the Mulsanne corner. And you had the car of TX3 Manthe there on the inside, but they kept it very much in order, though it seems Bellin lost out. Bellin really lost out on... and Manthe gets a 5-second penalty added from Kenni here. Fubuki, you might be slightly biased. I know. Oh, is that getting it all wrong in the background? Is that Stefonsi? Is that... Or was it Manthe, perhaps? It is indeed TX3 Manthe. No, it isn't. No, it wasn't. That's a bad call by me, indeed. Stefonsi, it is Stefonsi going off in the second part of Indianapolis. He really loses out on that one here. In comes Cubertom for his first stop. And exactly character creator, the guy in 8th place. So Shomar, guy in 8th at the moment, he's leading the GT class. And as you see, it's really close combat. It's a real dogfight between Shomar, Sky Pigman. It's Bellin and Super GT still within reach of each other. As Manthe pits in, he's in Cubertom. He leaves the pits here. Let's see what the gap is gonna be down to Olegna, who had the pit stop a little bit earlier. That's a huge gap if that's what it is when he exits the pit. That's absolutely massive. We now have the GTs pitting in. And the GTs, that seems to be the entire field, more or less. It's Shomar, Bellin, Super GT, Kerr, Stefonsi, and Sky Pigman. And I'm afraid that Iris has lost further time. He's now a minute down, so that's not what we wanted to see. But I feel I feel like it's an achievement for me, showing you a race here on our channel featuring some of my personal streamers, personal favorite streamers. That is that's nice. That's really nice. We'd expect to see Iris pitting in. Oh, he's on his outlap. So that of course explains why the deficit had grown by so much, and he'll be pretty much right back into contention. So we have the rest of the others leaving, some of them on brim tanks, some of them on close to brim tanks. And the debris in that chicane was indeed the marbles that had been put on by someone going wide. Here is Lewis, Mr. Bentley, leading by 3 seconds to Thomas, Lazarus Thomas, formerly known as M. Thomas. And then there's another 8.5 seconds down to Steve Gaming, Rolex driver, currently sitting 3rd, but virtually I'd say sitting in 5th position. I'd imagine, well, at least Cubertom, so perhaps actually sitting 4th virtually. But if there's something... Oh, good evening, Rabbit Gator. I hope you're doing well. Steve Gaming, who exits Anash here. It's just to speak a little about the TSO 50, the Toyota TSO 50. It is it's a very fast car. It really has the potential for a lot of speed, but it's also probably the twitchiest of the 3 LMP hybrids. Would I'd say the Audi R18 hybrid and the Porsche 919 being more stable and easier to drive. This one is a real challenge on slow corner exits. And good evening to Felix Schädler as well. Here is Steve Gaming pitting in, and he's a late pitter for the LMPs. He's done well to preserve his tires and fuel. That's a long pit straight indeed. Anyone using the Hyundai? No, Rabbit Gator, there is only the TSO 50 in the LMPs. There is only the GTR in the GT3s. Evening to Hansa. And there it is. Steve Gaming exits the pit. He's now behind Olegna indeed, so Olegna has done well to pick up the pace after his early stop. That's that red. Oh, that's a brake marker sign that has been put there in the middle of the braking zone into Dunlop, so that's a little bit of a problem. And that could have put out us. Of course, we don't have rules for safety car deployment, at least as far as I remember. But if we had, that would probably be a good job for the safety car to go out and get rid of that brake marker sign there. Still status quo completely between Lewis and Thomas and the two leading positions. And then the further 25 seconds down to Cubertom, with 3.2 seconds down to ERT Stevie, so he's done well on his second stint to claw himself back into a good position here. Now the action is still going on. Oh, Schumacher needs to serve a penalty, I think, and he did just serve that penalty. That might have been what dropped him down to 4th place. And he's just picked up more penalty. So he's on the edge yet again, close to needing to bumping off even more of that penalty. And he'd be sure that he needs to hold on to the slipstream of Bellin as they come down towards the Mulsanne Straight. Now Super GT is really rising to the occasion as he's battling with Sky Pikmin for the lead at the moment. They have managed to break away from Bellin in 3rd, from Schumacher, who's now sitting 4th. And of course, it is still with a long way to go. Schumacher not happy with the penalty he received there, it seems. Super GT taking the lead from Sky Pikmin with a good move there. Textbook stuff on entrance to the Mulsanne chicane. It was earlier even, he was actually in front. The camera angle kind of cheated me a little bit. As Sky Pikmin comes back to reclaim first. But they're doing a good job of not battling too hard, keeping up the pace. And this is something they'll both be well aware of, is extremely important in a race like this. And you can easily just get carried away with the battling, and that is not what you want to do. You want to keep the overall lap times consistent and steady, and that's one of the special things about La Sarthe as well, that it can really be an advantage being more than one car together. Often you see that one car gets dropped from a pack of cars on these slipstream trains that develop on these long straights. Then it can be a real battle getting back into contention. Now GT Sport, of course, gives the opportunity of a good bump draft. Oh, that's Stevie pitting in, so he also... I thought he'd been in for his first stop, but he's apparently kept it out all the way to here. And he's now rejoined in last in class. But that might actually mean a stop less. We'll have to see. Status quo is still reigning between the two Lazarus drivers on top. Although Cubertom has clawed in a bit of time, it seems, on Thomas. He's still 25 seconds down on leader Lewis. Evening to Maverick. Fubuki, it's 1.5 seconds before they have to slow down and serve. So Cubertom here, he's right on the limit. Maverick's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 And then we'll have to figure out some kind of... I've actually thought about that song can really be made into a racing song. Two LMP1s go around the outside, round the outside, round the outside. That's not how it goes. What do you mean, Mika? That's exactly how it goes, and that's exactly the perfect rhythmification, and that's I mean, that's the best Eminem impression you will hear in your life. In your life. In your life. No, it won't be. Anyway, to any first-time viewers of the channel, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, of course, if you like what we do here on Have the Race Gone. And don't forget to smash the like button. It really makes us happy. Now, Chomar's gotten rid of some of his penalty, but he's still carrying 0.8 of a second. He really didn't... Come on, Eminem's impression, I'd say. Yeah. Good point, Alex. Now, Thomas pitting in. He's really stretched that first stint as well. The same goes for Lewis. Or has he been in once? I don't even think he hasn't. Lewis really having been amazing on his tires so far to stretch it for so long while still running. That is, you only like the video if there are more Eminem songs. Okay, we'll do more songs in the style of DirtenDK, in the style of speaking Eminem. Which one you want to do? Which one do you want to do, Maverick? It has to be one of the old ones for me to know him. I don't know his newer work, but I'll probably remember some of the old stuff. Okay, we can do No, I don't remember any Eminem lyrics, to be fair. And to be honest, I actually really don't. It's interesting to notice that Thomas has rejoined in 5th position, and that is running behind Steve Gaming, that is running behind Olegna, and that is running a good deal of distance behind Cubertom. The thing is that the two Lazarus drivers, I would say, having stretched their stints long enough to have a stop less than the competition, and that will be all important since they're still pretty much on level terms. Of course, Lewis has still to make his first pit stop. Oh, as he almost gets it completely wrong. And that's through the Mulsanne corner. Let's just have another look and an onboard view. Lazarus Lewis. Oh, he goes deep. Oh, that's throttle control. That is throttle control for you right there. I want to just take another look because here you can hear it even better. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's good stuff right there. Just keeping it. But it's cost him another second down to Cubertom. And that's, of course, time that he doesn't really... he can't really afford to lose. In the end, Cubertom in a really good position. A little bit on an island at the moment, but comfortably in front of Olegna. That's by 19.4 seconds. We have Steve Gaming in 4th position at the moment. He's closely followed by Lazarus Thomas, fresh out the pits. And I think he's gonna be getting in front or getting ahead of Steve Gaming shortly. I would have expected the move actually to come here on their way into to Indy, but might be that Thomas is thinking tactically and knowing that he's gonna have to save both fuel and tires to be able to carry out what strategy they've set out to do. The Lazarus boys seems like they have a bold plan. Already, oh, okay, Mika, alright then. But you know what it is already? I don't think we've been over 49. I'll tell you if we get there. By the way, I just realized that we've gotten over 400 subs today. That's of course something that warms my heart. So thanks to all of you who subscribed today. That's a great pleasure of mine to see. Here it is, the pit stop we've been waiting for. Lewis is in. It's gonna be a long stop indeed. We have both Cubertom, Olegna, Steve Gaming is probably gonna be passed. Or is he? Let's see how he exits the pits here. And he is going to be able to keep it in front. He certainly is, so that's important stuff for Lewis. It's important because he manages to get out ahead of his teammate. And they're now separated by Steve Gaming, the Volex driver. Sweet for Boogie, thanks. So interesting development with the LMPs. Let's have a look back with the GTs, because that 4-car snake just won't go anywhere, just won't disappear, just won't stop, can't stop being a 4-car snake. That was a little hip-hop reference as well, to those of you in the know. Anyways, it's Super GT leading Bellin, Sky Pigman, and then it's, I would say, still of course Shoma in 4th position here. Bellin throws it up on the inside of Super GT into Mulsanne corner, takes the lead, and I call it the provisional lead now of the GT class, because it has been so close. It's been impossible to call. Look at that absolutely smashed up rear end. That's from all the bump drafting that's going on. These cars look horrible by now. Can't even see the lovely detail of that livery. Well, that's Super GT choosing to get rid of some of his penalty. Might that have been because he actually got over 1.5 seconds? I think it might very well be the reason that he just let off for a second. Hubert Tom is running very steadily, I have to say. And on a very good pace with 20.5 seconds of advantage down to Olegna. And then now running third and fourth, the two Lazarus drivers. Very close indeed, and that means Thomas has made his way through on Steve Gaming. And we're just going to be able to catch it indeed, I think. See here. Well, obviously not. And then further 26 seconds down to ERT Stevie, and then 5.5 seconds down to TX3 Manthe, running 7th in class. Still Bellin leading Shoma now, Sky Pigman and Super GT. Positions just keep changing. Everyone has indeed pitted in Group 1, and I think as well as everyone, of course, has pitted in Group 3. Those cars being somewhat more thirsty than the Group 1s. Of course, this being a charity event, you of course have the possibility of supporting the cause of Drive for Cure, and that's something you can do either on their website or through the PayPal link that you can find in our description, the video description. There's a PayPal link to the pool. Oh, Shoma almost getting it wide. We're just gonna have a look at what happened to the Frenchman as he exited the SS. Behind Bedlin, he's still 2nd in class. That's over the curb, gets... Oh, that's... I can tell you I've lost it on that particular spot on many occasions. Good job on Shoma. Of course, shows the skill of the drivers involved here. It's still 4 cars within just about a second from each other. This is classic stuff with these GTRs. Super GT, they're getting a little bit of a shoddy exit, and he seems to lose a little bit of time. But of course, with the advantage of a good slipstream all the way down here. Just checking the gap of Hubert Tom now. Thomas having gotten past on Olegna, and he's on a flying lap. Purple so far, seeming to be in for a bettering. Indeed for Buki. Here's Thomas. He seems to be into better the time set by Hubert Tom. 3:20.9 here as Lewis is looking up the inside of Olegna, and he gets past, I think, as well. Oh, Olegna also getting a slide on the exit as we're on the wang cam. And now with the replay. It was respectful driving from Olegna, realizing that Well, it could be fought out, that battle, but it's gonna lose big time. Or it's gonna lose to the guys in front, or it's gonna cost a lot of time indeed here. Three-car battle now, 3rd through 5th position in the LMPs. Lewis, Olegna, and Steve Gaming. Into Gamut. Oh, what was that? A bit of a... That was Thomas getting past on some of those LMPs. Let's just have another look at that, because that looked... look at that. That's... Oh my god! Yeah, that's Multiclass. That's... I mean... Woo! Oh... Let's just enjoy that one. I'll shut up for 2 seconds. You can enjoy this piece of skill from Lazarus Thomas yet again. The skill, the reaction time. Amazing indeed. I mean, with about any other driver, this would end up in a huge pile-up. Looks how he just threaded his way through that pack of battling GTs. It looks to be impossible. You'd think it is, but he manages to pull it off. It's really, really impressive. Super good stuff from Thomas there. And manages not even to lose the slightest amount of time. So that's the stuff, the kind of stuff that wins you races on the Sarthe. Now joining the Wang cam of ERT Bellin. We're closing in on the half the race gone marker. It's only around 6 minutes away by now. So the fact that the race hasn't really settled in the GT class at all yet, still 4 cars really just battling it out. And it's still anyone's game here. Indeed, Alex, I have to say, I agree. That one was, that's some of the most impressive threading the needle action I've ever seen. And we've had quite a bit of multi-class racing here on the channel with the NES, and I know generally the drivers aren't maybe that good, but still, you see some stuff here and there. That stuff was just, that was some next level stuff. Here on board with the Super GT, 4th in the GT class. He has the run on Chomar. Let's see what the Frenchman is going to do to defend it. Just absolutely nothing. A little bit of a bump draft. Super GT lets off. There's no penalty, so it's not because of that. Just keeping the car composed as Chomar makes a major mistake, and that is really going to compromise his exit. And he actually gets a slide on, gets in the way of Super GT. Oh, he'll be a little bit annoyed with that, because it'll be costing them both time on the 2 leaders. As Sky Pigman goes for the move on Bellin now out in front. Let's join. That's Sky Pigman. And that's done before the braking zone, so that's drama-free this time around. Blue flags being waved because we have who's that? Elegna on his way through? Or was it Stevie? It is Stevie in the 712 Porsche, or Porsche. That's a bit of a Dirtenism. There's not even anything closely resembling a Porsche here. And the Toyota. The Toyota. So Stevie sitting 6th in class at the moment, chasing Steve Gaming in front, down by 19 seconds, but the strategy isn't completely similar for all the LMPs. So we'll have to wait and see until the end to make sure just how everything turns out. Cubertom with a 21.4 second advantage, still down to Thomas in 2nd position. So he's keeping the advantage alive, although next up it's going to be Thomas taking over race lead. Olegna had a long stint as well, so he might be in a better position than we would have expected him to be. And of course, there's Lewis, pole setter of the race, closing in. Steve Gaming in the background, 5th in class. He's also still close. Bellin and Sky Pigman, they've now got a little bit of a gap. It's 1.2 seconds. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough to really break away from Shoma and Super GT. Although Super GT also having lost a little bit of time. I really hope it's not the final spread out, the final settling of running order here in the GT class. Please do go on battling, guys. Because it is some of the best racing action we've seen for a very long time. Courtesy of these top level drivers. It really says something about the level and the talent of Super GT that he's able to compete at this level. I know that he also plays GT Sport and he does take part in the FIAs and so on, but he has a lot of other stuff going on in his life as well, and it's impressive to see. But also having watched some of his karting videos, that really goes to show that there's quite a bit of skill involved with Mr. Brown Alvarez, I guess it is. But oh, Shoma getting wide. Gentlemanly fashion from Super GT, actually holding back. Let's go on board with the Brit, having a look at the car in front of him, and that's pretty much a carbon copy of the moment he had a couple of laps ago. Shoma yet again on the exit of the S's. It's where he chooses to have his big moments, and that also in turn put Super GT in with a good run, and he's now in front. That's probably a good idea if that's the way Shoma's going to keep on driving for the rest of the race. If they want to stay in contention, they have to get moving. It's a little bit out of slipstream range. That is in turn a problem. We're going to have Bellin probably ducking out up in front. Yep, that is exactly what's going on. Bellin up the inside of Sky Pigman, and he's going to take the lead. Let's go on board with the... Well, that's Bellin. I wanted to go on board with Sky Pigman here. Let's have a bit of a panorama view of the battle for first in the GT class, as we are reaching of racing down. 1 hour of racing left to go for the drivers here. Again, getting closer. Oh, Cuber Tom in, and that's with an empty tank. And the question is it empty? I don't think so. Did it go empty? Well, we would hope not. I think he timed it to perfection. The gap has gone down by a little bit more, and here is Thomas making his way through, and he's gonna have something around 20 seconds in advantage, as Cuber Tom is gonna be leaving the pit lane. Olegna also pits in here, and that is indeed gonna give third then, I think, to Steve Gaming. That depends if Cuber Tom is gonna be able to make it out the pits in time. There it is, exits, and that's behind Steve Gaming by a couple of seconds as well. So he's out running fourth at the moment. Olegna, he comes in there from that long pit entrance. We've mentioned it before, but it really is one of these tracks where a pit stop costs you a lot of time indeed. And there it is, the rejoin for Olegna, keeping in front of Manthe. He's now 13 seconds down on Erie's racing teammate Stevie. And mentioning Erie's, I feel like we should have a look at Erie's, because he's been flying under the radar since he got, well, I was about to say disconnected, but that's not a term you want to use too much in sim racing. It's a dirty word. Oh, it's a dirty word. Disconnect, don't use that word. But anyways, Erie's, it was a shame that he got left off the back of the GT3 field in that battle that was going on, and is still going on as they're all pitting in yet again. It's the second pit round for for the GT3s. Here is Chomar. Oh, look at Bellin. He has a lot more fuel than the competitors. And that's really worth noticing because being so close here might just... it might just come down to that advantage in the end. And it does also, of course, matter if they brim it or not. They don't, and Bellin take a little bit extra and just make sure that he keeps that fuel advantage until the last stint, the last pit stop. Let's see how that unfolds later on. So it's yet again the two Lazarus boys of the LMP field. That's Thomas now leading Lewis. It's a 10-second gap between the two. Steve Gaming third at the moment. Cubertom fourth. It's Iris fifth and sixth with Stevie and Olegna. And it's then TX3 Manti running seventh. Steph Osi running in the lead of the GT class at the moment, but he hasn't pitted yet. At least not for the second time around. Then behind him it's still that 4-car scrap still taking place. Bellin, Super GT, Sky Pigman, and where's Chomar gone? He's been left behind. That 2.5 second gap might be, oh, is that gonna be it? Where did the gap come from there from Chomar here? Steve Gaming is pitting in. Indeed, Fubuki, well caught, because Chomar just got latched off the back there, it seems, and given that they also seem to have a little bit more spread now, means they won't be slowing down anytime soon, it seems, and it might be a little bit of problem for Chomar. Of course, hanging out in the slipstream lap after lap after lap does provide some great advantages in terms of fuel saving. And with the bump drafting that you're able to do in GT Sport, it's also a straight up speed advantage. And Super GT, I think, is being sure to... or here, of course, it's not really necessary because Sky Pigman is in the slipstream of Bellin. So if anybody will be bump drafted, it's Bellin in front there, but they're just gonna pass him instead. Oh, that's not the place to bump draft, but it's well driven, getting close, but not too close. Keeps the distance, doesn't touch. And it shows on the gap to Chomar what I was mentioning before. He's lost 0.3 of a second just on the last straight alone, when he took more fuel in the pits. So he's trying to do what Bellin has also done, and to carry a little bit more fuel into the final pit stop and thus be able to gain time there. That is my call on it, at least. We've seen this strategy well deployed many times in the league racing that we've covered. Lewis clawing back a little bit of time. It's now underneath the 10-second marker between those two. And there is Stefansi pitting in from the lead of the GT class. TX3 driver. Interesting to see where he is going to exit. I think he's going to be around, somewhat around 20 seconds behind the lead battle as they come flying by. Cars you hear pass right about now. Let's hop out to see its skills. Sky Pigman, Bellin, and Super GT. And then Chomar, also Kerr, very much flying under the radar at the moment. Let's see, is he gonna be passing Stefansi here? He might just do that. Although I'm not quite sure it's gonna be very close, but he is gonna take him on the way down to Dunlop. Through the kink and into the chicane. That's comfortable with a second's advantage. Stefansi 6th in class there. And there's Irius on his way through the Ford chicane. Thomas now back up over 10 seconds, just keeps it on the curb, not picking up a penalty. Lewis carrying a 7/10 of a second penalty, so doesn't have too much space for more until he'd have to serve it. Same goes for Cubertom, he's on almost a second here. He throws it around the outside of, well, let it be, is that Bellin? No, it certainly isn't. That is Irius himself, of course. And that big lead battle in the GT3 still raging on. Sky Pigman, Bellin, and Super GT. The gift that keeps on giving. These three cars just won't stop. Shomar has clawed back some of the time that he's lost over the last couple of laps, so it would be foolish to count him out here. Bellin, insistent move up the inside through Multan. Let's just have a second look at that one. And nowhere to go on the exit for Sky Pigman. And it's a difficult position for Shomar to be in, as you can see him there right behind. Just latched off. Not close enough to really gain anything from the slipstream. He can see the cars in front. And he has indeed gained. He's gained half a second since last we checked, so he's really flying up on him here. Oh, big slide. And he's picked up 1.2 seconds worth of penalties, so that's also something that you have to keep in mind. 50 minutes of racing remaining here from the Driven to Cure charity event. We're watching half the race gone tonight, as always, with the commentary by me, DirtenDK, and watching an amazing battle in the GT3 class of this race. The lead battle that has been going on for an hour and 10 minutes. And it's just hasn't really been any splits at any real point. It's been 4 cars for a while. Shomar's just slightly been disconnected from the back of this, well, it's a trio now. But don't discount him from making his way back on it. Evening to T5. What a pleasure to have you along. I hope you're doing well. Oh, Rabbit Gator, he certainly is getting back quickly indeed. You can see that is a really ice gaining time quickly. And that's Thomas making his way through the king of traffic. Can we call him that? If Tichney is the king of drama, with that move he pulled off earlier in this race, Lazarus Thomas slices his way through yet again. And Getmut, I think you're right on that one, because when we saw him pit in the last time around, Bellin was quite a bit of way up on fuel compared to his immediate competitors. Avup! Amazing to see. What a pleasure to see you. Of course, Avup is apart from being a part of the IGTL organizing teams, also a very talented French language broadcasting colleague of mine. So all you French speaking people should go and check him out on Twitch. Oh, that is great to hear. We're really making up some numbers in the donations. I haven't really had the chance to check it out, so my plan was to do so after the race, and then we could all collectively see and cherish how much been put in. Let's try that standard camera for Cubertom, who's alone at the moment, following him down. towards the second chicane. He's closing in on the snake of cars battling for the GT lead. Led by ERT Bellin at the moment. He's done so well so far. And Chomar is right back on the tail of it. Good job from the Monaco Pro. This battle, I have to say, it's amazing. It just keeps on giving. It's now Sky Pigman leading Super GT Bellin, and then Chomar. And, well, the positions change back and forth quicker than I could ever really keep up with. It's just knowing that there's this this four-way scrap going on. Well, I say that that'd be enough to keep you here, to keep you watching, because what a battle it has turned out to be so far. So that's close to 2,500 pounds. That's impressive. That's very impressive, and that's something that really warms my heart to see that people are willing to donate to such a cause. Let's just have a look with the LMP leader still. Thomas is down to 8 seconds now. The lead he's holding on to in front of Lewis. Cooper Tom in third position, but 15.8 seconds down, so by no means out of it. ERT Stevie fourth at the moment, Steve Gaming in fifth, it's Elegna sixth, and it's Manthe in seventh. Yeah, Rabbit Gator Lewis could be due in for another pit stop in soon, indeed. And it would fit with a two-stop strategy as well. Wouldn't be overly surprised if that's what's happening. He is bleeding time, or not bleeding time, that's perhaps a bit harsh to say, a bit much to say, but he is losing time to Lewis. Or Lewis due in again soon. Well, it's he's gaining on Thomas still, so I'd expect Thomas to be a little worse off on tires here as Lewis gets a bit of a harsh exit. He's looking okay on tires. It's looking okay on fuel as well. Wayne came time from GT3 leader, which is now Super GT. Bellin second, it's Sky Pigman, and then Chomar, and then we have one of the LMP ones, and that's Lewis, I'm quite sure, making his way through. As Bellin takes the lead, as Lewis, I think, is gonna go up the inside of Super GT. No, he's gonna bite this time. No, that's Stevie. ERT Stevie. Oh, hairy moment for ERT Stevie on his way through traffic. And next one up is Steve Gaming. Let's have a look here at the... How did that look for Stevie? I just knows how is that it's gonna fall out if he tries to send that one up the inside. Why is the choosing not to almost checks Super GT around the backside? Manages not to. Then comes... Oh, Steve Gaming, the Volex driver. Really having to employ some fast reactions as well on his way through. And yet again, a little bit of a split happening. This time it's Sky Pigman and Shoma. A little bit away behind Bellin and Super GT. Although I'd expect them to get back on again. And then it's Olegna getting close. Rounding these in traffic here is a difficult place to do so. In the Porsche curves. Of course you can do it on the outside. In the LMP. Oh, that's close. Almost got himself tipped by his teammate and I think good personal friend as well, Bellin, but they managed not to touch, and they'll be happy if they didn't. That is for sure. Stevie pitting in this time around with 40 minutes of racing remaining, and close one indeed, huh, Rapid Gator? 7.3 seconds, so it's still shrinking between Thomas and Lewis. Two race leaders in the LMPs, and Cupertom in third, also very much still in with a shout. But a little bit of a different strategy, so it's I think it's hard to call. I think it would require a little more attention to the specific details of their strategy to be able to make any real calls on whether they're still in with a real shout or not here, as Super GT is absolutely harrying the rear side of ERT Bellin up through Tete Rouge. Sky Pigman and Shoma just looking to get within the slipstream range, but they're not doing that. They're not doing that at the moment. Still just the bump drafting going on. Seems to be the strategy for the day. Shoma moves up the inside of Sky Pigman. Several cars getting a little bit slidey through that first chicane. One thing you really have to give it to PD about is the camera work, the camera placement for these spectating and for replays and all that stuff. It's just really good. And of course you do have two ways of seeing it, because we can also choose the standard view, because that's not as good for some things, and then it's better for other things, and it gives, yeah, it's good stuff. Applause, PD. Now Super GT and Bellin seems to just be extending the gap here as Thomas is pitting in. And all of a sudden he's found 2.5 seconds on Lewis, who must have made some kind of mistake. Lewis staying out. Thomas was the first one to pit in, so it was as I thought. I'm quite sure he's going to be able to rejoin in third in front of Steve Gaming. I'd be surprised to see this pit stop take so much time. It's 50 seconds between the two at the moment. Well, Rapid Gator, to be honest, I haven't really driven too much with it. I haven't really driven at all as of late in GT Sport. I've been getting back with a PC, which means I've been driving in Assetto Corsa on SimRacing system, which is good fun. Did an hour on the Nürburgring VLN Cup layout in the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup. That was intense. It gave me a good idea of what it is to do these even longer races on the Green Hell, which is challenging to say the least. And I've also just subscribed for a month, starting out with a month. I'm quite sure it's not just gonna be a month, for iRacing. and that's also a lot of fun. So haven't really gotten around to checking out the new physics yet. I have yet to do so, but I will get around to it sometime soon. So Lewis now leading Cuperton by 1.2 seconds. No, and I don't have, it's just been the regular Assetto Corsa and not Competizione yet. So I yet have to get a hold of it, and I have to check if my PC can actually run it. I think it should be able to if it's not too heavy. Let's go back with the GT3 battle. I don't want to miss any action here because it's been so good all the way through so far. Berlin leading Super GT, then Choma in third. And then it's Sky Pigman fourth at the moment. And that's a fast moving drone to be able to take this shot. They enter the first chicane. Top on with the Choma, still fighting just to get back in the slipstream. It's T3 Manthe moving up to lap fourth and third, and then the two leaders of the GT class. But it really seems like Competizione would be a good game to release on console with the... And then on the other hand, it always has a wheel. And any game that requires a wheel to really play and enjoy it, it's always bound to have a little bit of a hard time on the console, I guess. So... Oh, Martin, 409. I hadn't even checked, but nice. Really nice to see. Thanks to everyone who's subscribed today. We've gotten past 400 subscribers, which I'm, of course, very happy to see. And a matter of fact, we're all the way up on 409. So that's great. We're still not in any way big or anything here, so we appreciate the small, subtle joys of life. As we're watching Choma getting slidey with the rear end. Let's just have a look at his tires. They are beginning to be a little bit worn, especially that left rear. Seems to be the tire that struggles the most with these GTRs. Man. Look at this. Cuperton now having gotten past on Lewis, overtaking the race lead. Of course, Thomas, who's running 25 seconds down on these two. He's had a pit stop more than these two drivers, so virtually still would be in the lead. Getting close to the final quarter of the race, the final 30 minutes. And it's been a raging battle for 90 minutes, 90 odd minutes by now. Between these four GT cars, it's been quite something of a show. So little to separate them. And Super GT has really risen to the occasion. He might be streaming royalty on YouTube, but he certainly packs a punch. Man, a lot of talent indeed to be in up here. Also, it's been a while since we've checked in with Kerr 187. He's running 6th in class at the moment. He's 5.8 seconds, or around 6 seconds down on Stefosi, the TX3 driver in front. So could still move up the order. And then a bit of way back it is, here he is, with Lewis entering the pits with fumes of fuel left only. Interesting to see how much split is gonna be between Thomas and Lewis as they come out. It's gonna be the final pit stop, I'm very much sure. Cubertom staying out, so he's gonna have a short final stint. He's also going to be losing time to Thomas on this lap. I'm expecting him to pit in at the end of this lap. And he'd then have fresher tires for the final stint. And Thomas on a very good pace. Purple through Sector 1 by 2.5 tenths of a second. Steve Gaming, the Rolex driver, sitting 3rd at the moment. Not bad at all for him, but he needs another pit stop as well, and that's gonna bring him down the order again. And then, of course, how could we ever leave it for any more than a couple of minutes? The lead battle in the GTs. On board, we are going with RT Bellin. He's been leading for the odd lap or so by now. Got Super GT for company and in behind. You can spot the cars of Shoma, the AS Monaco Pro driver and reigning manufacturer world. What is it called? The World Finals Manufacturer Series champion. That is, of course, the Lazarus driver, Sky Pickman. That's Super GT taking the lead of the GT class. That's Shoma making up some massive gains. And just bringing those two back into contention. No way around on Super GT, but he seemed to slow down Bellin ever so slightly through the Porsche curves. And there it is, that pit stop. Good call for Buki. Final stop for the GT3s. Oh, and Super GT hits the wall. And carnage as they enter the pits. This is something we have yet to see on board with Super GT. Let's face forward here. Oh, he just checks into that wall. Oh, that's poor luck indeed. That is poor luck indeed. But it's not going to cost him any time, I think. Not going to be repairing. Damage is only on light, but that could be important seconds lost if it wasn't. So, are we watching Invisible Cars now? Where is it? I think we had... What's... Oh, it's the replay showing for some... Oh, then I have a better understanding for why we didn't see anything. I was like, what's going on, pit crew? What are you doing? We're seeing Ricardo at Monaco. Where are the tires? But it's good. It's good to see. And it's almost as they were, with the exception of Sky Pickman getting passed on Super GT. And now, as we've moved inside of the final 30 minutes of racing, the front 4 GT drivers yet again are more or less within a second. And it is impressive indeed. Manthe, we have a report on Manthe. He's running in 7th at the moment. I don't know how he is on strategy, or so to say, how he's running virtually. Not quite sure. So it's Thomas, Lazarus Thomas leading Cubertom by 17 seconds now, and I'd expect the top 3 runners in the GT to be, or in the LMPs, to be on their final stint. As a matter of fact, I think more or less everyone is on their final stints at the moment. Steve Gaming exiting the pits for his final run here in 4th position at the moment, quite comfortably. 8.5 seconds in front of ERT Stevie. And then it's Olegna in 6th at the moment. Manthe, as mentioned before, he's in 7th. Stefonsi going a lap further than the competition. And that means he's leading the GT3s at the moment, but virtually he isn't so. It's still the battle in behind with the inseparable 4, as we shall now name them. And indeed, Stickman, it is very nice to see some African drivers, South African as well, but also just as well some African drivers, and it's great to see. Gets close on the entrance to Indianapolis as Shomar gets in front of Bellin, and they go side by side, and a little bit of a tap between the two. Shomar just squeezes in before the braking zone into Anash. And then it's LMP leader Lazarus Thomas getting through, and this time with a lot less drama than what we saw earlier on, as he had to lap these 4 cars. And that's certainly something we're gonna have someone clip and throw on Twitter for everyone to enjoy many times after, because that was certainly worthy of bows and applauses. As a commentator, you're always wishing for eventful racing, you're always wishing for close racing, unpredictable racing, when we're getting all that with this battle for the GT3 lead. And there's no doubt in my mind that I didn't expect so much. I don't think I'd ever expect such a battle, because chances are you get disappointed as soon as the race, because what you usually see, especially on a track like La Sarthe, is that the race settles in when the small mistakes are made, the gaps are created. Just haven't really seen this, and it has indeed been great. Like you say, Rabbit Gator, it's been more than great in my mind. It's been fantastic. Here's Cubertom. Let's go on board with the Brit in 2nd. That's the Brits ruling the LMPs at the moment. And Cubertom, well, he finds the best place on the track pretty much to lap traffic, the Mulsanne Straight. So because the Mulsanne Straight is somewhat wider than the part behind or after the Mulsanne corner, the section from Mulsanne through Indy and Arnage and then down to the Porsche curves being a little bit more narrow. Especially on the run into Indy, that's where it's at its narrowest, and that's exactly where Thomas had that hair racing moment earlier on. Lewis is closing in on Cubertom, and remember, this is a race to the line between these two at the moment for podium spots, running around 20 seconds, a little bit in the vicinity of 20 seconds down on Thomas, who's really pulled out a good performance. It's also shown on numerous occasions in the past that he really masters these LMP machines, the Group 1s in particular. He's very strong in these cars, and he's able to run at a storming pace while still keeping his tires alive. It's impressive to see indeed. Steve Gaming in 4th. He's 35 seconds down on Lazarus Lewis. Now let's hop back and just check in. Oh, it's still Stefonsi leading, but he's losing time. He's lost a lot of time on this lap alone. And at that pace, I'd imagine that he's having to fuel save quite heavily. Well, that is indeed the case. Well, that could indeed be the case, I'm quite sure here. On board with Sky Pigman, the Lazarus driver, the Manufacturer Series World Champion. He's holding off Shomar, but only just here on the entrance to the Porsche curves. Shomar gets a slightly better line, gets a better run, but nowhere to go. Let's hop on board Bellin. They're really bringing back Stefan Sy in front quickly here. They're going to be entering the Ford chicane, the braking zone, right around here. Oh, Super GT aggressive on the brakes, late on the brakes. I guess a super good line through there actually. Let's just have a quick second look with that situation, because it seemed that he was really closing in, maybe even a little too quickly. The speed he carries there is impressive, that he manages not even to pick up a penalty. And he is in turn as they exit Dunlop right on the bumper of Bellin yet again. Haven't managed to put Sky Pigman and Shomar out of the slipstream either, so they'll be that four-car train. It's still running, it's still going. 20 minutes of racing left. That'll be just around 4 laps for the GTs. And in the front of affairs in the LMPs, it is still Lazarus Thomas leading Cubertom and Lewis. And the difference between Cubertom and Lewis is diminishing. The gap is diminishing. It was over 2 seconds last time we checked in. It's now under. It's closing in to just 1.5 seconds. And Lewis has second place in the scopes. Seems to be catching Cubertom. But Cubertom was in late. He was in actually later than Lewis as well. So I'd expect Cubertom to be on fresher tires here for the end. It could provide a challenge indeed, and could prove to be a big challenge for Lewis. And it all depends if he manages to get ahead before his own tires start losing their advantage. It is going to happen. So we've seen this before. We saw it in the last... we've seen actually in several of the IGTL races where the tire advantage seemed to favor one driver at one particular time. And then as the tires got worn, then the second driver in the battle kind of got faster with those tires. We saw the pendulum begin swinging in the other direction here as Lewis gets a little bit loose and a little bit wide on the exit of Indianapolis, and that costs a couple of tenths. So it's still very much alive, this battle for second position in the LMPs. I think Thomas just needs to keep a cool head and keep it running to the line, and he will be home more or less safety with the 13.5 second advantage that he is holding at the moment. Let's check back in as the GT3s make their way through Indianapolis, getting caught by one of the LMPs. I think that's either that's one of the Aries LMPs. It's the car of Stevie, as one of the GT3s gets very wide, and Super GT sees the opportunity to pull away perhaps. As something happened there behind that was hard to see indeed. That's Olegna now in between as well. And we will have another look shortly as Olegna clears Super GT's car here just before the Porsche curves. And thanks Fabian Chin the love comes all the... yeah, it's... we're done. Let's see what happened here on board with Shoma. That's going to give us a good view of proceedings. Was it just Stevie's car causing a little bit of chaos? Oh, it accidentally came to push Sky Pigman a little bit wide. And was it Bellin? It was Bellin indeed who got pushed wide in that situation. And that indeed gave both Sky Pigman and especially Shoma and Bellin some really bad exit from Manage. And in turn helped Super GT get a little bit of a lead. Is it going to be enough for him to hold on to? Still 17 minutes of racing left. And it seems like no one has been able to really outmaneuver any kind of group advantage that has been, as we've mentioned before, with the slipstream. Especially when the bump drafting is applied as well. It's easier to do when the damage is only a light because there is no permanent consequences. I have seen it rarely. It does happen, picking up aero damage from bump drafting. So it's always a risk if it's damage set too heavy, which it isn't here. And in turn, anyone who's had any type of accidents, especially early on the track here, they would really appreciate that. Manthi now rejoining the track in 7th position in class. Olegna sitting in 6th, but he's closing in on Iris Racing teammate Stevie in 5th position. In 4th in the LMPs, it's Steve Gaming of the Volex esports team. It's Lazarus Lewis 3rd. It's Cuba Tom 2nd and leading the LMPs with a 12-second advantage, so it's coming down. It's not at all decided yet, still 15 minutes to go. But Lazarus Thomas looks good to go at the moment. He's in a very good position to hold on as he makes his way through the Porsche curves for the 30th time of this race. Still Super GT leading, and it's with a 1.5 second advantage. So he might have pressed the go button. Now it's time for Sky Pigman and Shoma to serve penalties, and that's in turn gonna that's gonna allow Bellin to get on through, but I mean, at what cost? Bellin gets in front of Sky Pigman there, but he gets a bad exit. And Shoma looking now to break away from the slipstream yet again. It is going to be possible for him. Well, I'm not sure. It might just. And if Shoma has to serve his penalty, 5.2 seconds of penalty having been accumulated for Shoma. Well, that's a big one indeed. And that is surely gonna cause some kind of post-race reaction, I would imagine, from our race steward, our marshal steward, race what is that, race leadership, anyways. Sky Pigman with a 5-second penalty as well. Yes, 4.9 seconds. I had completely missed to see that. Oh, that might be what's gonna put those two out of contention, and in the end it might be coming down to a fight between Bellin and Super GT, and at the moment Super GT is running away with it. In the number 25 GT car. Impressive stuff from Super GT, I have to say. The gap for Thomas now 11 seconds down to Cuber Tom, who's really though broken it down to Lewis, because last time we checked in and had a look, it was around 1.7 seconds and up to 3.5 seconds by now. And Lewis has also picked up a 1.1 second penalty, so it's looking good for Cuber Tom at the moment for second place. 13 minutes of racing left. It's well, it's still too early to call anything, I'd say. Oh, they got BS penalties, and you're trolling them by telling them to serve anyways. Oh, Kenni. What do I know? Thing is, it's gonna affect the race result in the end if we're gonna count these penalties into it. Well, it's... I mean, it has the track limits, it has... I mean, I haven't seen any contact penalties, but maybe Kenni can explain what happened for these 5-second penalties to be given. Now it's interesting to note that Super GT and Shomar at this moment are pulling away from Bellin and Sky Pigman in behind. And the gap is now around 2 seconds, and at this late stage with just 10 minutes of racing left, well, a little bit more, just under 12 minutes actually. One thing is for sure, this is still gonna go all the way to the line, as it's TX3 Manthe who's now gonna come around the lead quartet. Well, it's now getting split up into 2 duos. That's like Westlife splitting it into 2 duos. That's a very old. That was from when I was a teenager. Not that I ever really liked their music. I guess that Uptown Girl song was okay, but that's also an old song, that might be why. Okay, we'll keep a lid on that discussion then, Alex. I don't know, Fubuki. I'm yet to... I have to admit, I don't know. But the gap is growing. And it seems to me that it's all, at the moment, playing into the hands of Super GT. And it has to be said that he's driven a sterling race so far. Hasn't really put a foot wrong whatsoever. And against such a strong level of competition, he's risen to the challenge. It's been great to see Sky Pigman 4th in class at the moment, chasing ERT Bellin. It's gonna be a bump draft, bump up towards the Porsche curves, just trying to claw back those 2 and some seconds to the duo in front. As we're now within the last 10 minutes of racing. Oh, Sky Pigman gets it a little bit wide. Might pick up some extra penalty there. I say he's lucky if you don't. Well, that's lucky indeed then. The back end is now to 8.2 seconds, so Cubertom is actually closing that gap. I think he's just gonna run out of road for it to come down and really come together for him. But it is coming down. He's also increasing the gap to Lazarus Lewis. Incredible, I don't know if it's incredible, but it's impressive. That's the word I was looking for. To see Cubertom finding that absolute pace here on the closing laps of the race. And Mika, no higher viewer peak. Not as far as I'm aware, unless we get some crazy boost here late on towards the final couple of laps. It's been steady around 40 all the ways, which is also for what we've been seeing lately, which is really great to see. It's been great to see so many of you tuning in. It's been a great pleasure to have you all along so far, and I hope you've been enjoying the action. The drivers have been serving it on a silver plate. They've been doing a fantastic job of making this racing as interesting as, I was about to say as humanly possible, because it has been closer and closest. Well, it has been all 3, it's been close all the way through, and it still is, and it's still too close to call as well. Shomar now getting the run out of the first chicane as he grabs a hold of what I'd still dare just to say is the provisional GT3 lead. And a good night to you, Mika. Sleep tight, and I will see you soon, mate. Manchi got served. He got served. No, he got told to serve his penalties there. Still following Shoma, Super GT, and then right behind those it's Bellin and Sky Pigman completing that lead quartet. And those GTRs, the GTR GT3s, they've been providing us with that fantastic, almost synchronous slide from both, well, first Shoma and Super GT, both getting it a little bit out of order, but they're still pulling away from Bellin. And in turn also Sky Pigman, because he has just about now caught up to the slipstream of Bellin. But he's in no way able to help Bellin along. That's gonna aid Shoma and Super GT here on the straights. And there is no way that gap is coming down quickly enough for Cupertom to catch Thomas. Unless Thomas makes some kind of grave mistake here on the last couple of laps. I think he'll have 2 more laps to go as he crosses the line the next time. Quite sure. We'll have to see. And thanks to you, Remco. Pleasure is all mine. Of course, all the Iris community members cheering madly for Bellin, sitting in 3rd in the GTs at the moment, but he is clawing back time, it seems, making up space on Super GT in 2nd at the moment, and it won't be long before he'll be within slipstream distance yet again. And that means he'll be able to claw his way back on the Mulsanne straight. I think they will have 2 more laps to go, and they will indeed. Also, the GTs be coming towards and upon the penultimate lap of racing here from the Driven Secure charity event. And thanks, Nello. Someone tell the FIA to call me in. You know, I'll say yes any day. How amazing it would be to actually go to Le Mans and be a part of it. And yeah, I've dreamt about that. Trust me. Ooh, Bellin! No time for that at this point of the race. Great catch. Let's just have another look as we join the Iris Esports Belgian on his way into the Dunlop chicane. I think he just catches a little too much of the exit curbs. That's at the AstroTurf. It's slippery. It wasn't as much of a slide as I thought it was initially, and he's still within slipstreaming distance, and that's important for him because it might in turn just mean that he's going to be able to pull away from Sky Pigman, and he's been put out of the slipstream now. He's lost the slipstream to Super GT. So I think it's around 0.8 of a second to keep it. He's just lost it. I suspect bump draft coming into play yet again. Let's go on board with the baguette wang of Shoma with the Viper Stripe GTR. It seems to be the new concept of choice for Shoma. Super GT is closing in. And with that penalty, Shoma is a sitting duck, so it all depends on whether the race direction is gonna deem it to be a legit penalty or not as they cross the line, or if they are indeed gonna take 4 seconds off the finishing time of Shoma. That's a massive bump. And that really just goes to show how much speed you actually pick up these bump drafts. The yellow stripes are French fries. How could I not have seen that myself? Alex, of course it is. Franske fritter, det hedder det ikke på dansk. Det hedder bare pomfritter. which is kind of stupid. That one person who could understand that, that'd probably only be Kenni out there, but he knows the deal. Stains. Shoma holding on to it still, keeping it under control, but it's Lazarus Thomas. Oh, was that contact or is it just a little bit of lag? Let's hope for the second bit. Looks a little bit laggy to me. Oh yeah, that's certainly laggy indeed. What a terrible time to have that bit of latency. Oh, that could have been a terrible moment there if the game had decided for it. Look at this now, 5 seconds, so the gap is coming down, but Cubertom is now also getting held up in the very same traffic that cost Thomas quite a bit of time before Cubertom gets it wrong on the penultimate time around. The caution curves on the outside here. F's out in chat, please, for Cubertom, who completely throws it away. Gifts second place on the podium to Lewis, and it's now his to lose. Let us have another look. Perhaps the dirty air of the car in front that threw him off, took away all grip on the front of the car. Or is it just having to go around the outside? Nothing to do. He becomes a passenger. What poor luck indeed for Cubertom, who's done such a good race so far. Rapid Gator calls that Super GT will be short on fuel. Well, that's a bold call. He is a little bit low, let's see, compared to his rivals. Oh, he has the same fuel left as Shoma, I think. And Bellin is even lower. A little bit more left for Sky Pigman, but it's about the same, so I think he'll be okay from what I can see. We'll have to see. We will have to see. It is now the final lap of racing, the final 30 seconds until the clock runs out. The drivers now know this is the last bits of the last minutes of concentration required. For Cubertom, it seemed to be a couple of minutes too much. He's done brilliantly so far to keep himself within contention between the two very strong Lazarus drivers, Thomas and Lewis, and in the end, he lost it through the last of the Porsche curves. Back with the GT300 leaders. It is really stringing out now, a little bit of a penalty having been picked up by Super GT, but it's just 0.4 of a second. It should be something that he can live with. Shoma right on his bumper. Still not sure whether he's gonna be timed with that penalty or not, but we're gonna have to see that. We're gonna have to wait and see till after the race. This time Shoma has the run, and yet another bump draft. Trying to escape the chasers, I think. Trying to put that definitive gap in between themselves and the rest. As Lewis calls for a formation finish between himself and Cubertom, or himself and Thomas, of course. But with a 2.3 second gap, wouldn't say that's enough of an advantage, really. It also requires him not to binge on the exit of Anaj. And right about there, he lost a couple of tenths alone, I think. It's got a little deep. Cubertom says no. Will not have it that way. It shall not be simple. And it's quite a bit of lag on my part from Thomas at the moment. It hasn't been like this all the race. Luckily, we've been able to enjoy his driving greatly on the most part. It has been a great drive by Lazarus Thomas. He is indeed slowing down to allow his teammate Lewis, who... Did he just cut across the final chicane? to take the win. What the fuck? That's pardon my French. Thomas and Dina was just a bit of lag. It was a big lag spike there at the end. Cubitom takes third behind LSR, Lazarus, Thomas, Lazarus, Lewis on the two top steps of the podium. Is gonna be Steve Gaming coming home for fourth. But more importantly, in the GT3s all the way to the line, it's gonna go, and it's gonna be Super GT taking the win in front of Shoma all the way to the line. I think at least Super GT taking it. Yes, it is. Brilliant drive from streaming royalty Super GT. Brilliant talent he is as well, I have to say. That was such a great race. Bellin comes home for third, second if we are to believe the penalties. And it ends up with being fourth for Sky Pigman in class. But what a battle the GT3s have delivered us with. It's been fantastic from start to finish here. Curse car is now without wheels, and that might explain why it's been lagging behind compared to Stefansi in front. Of course, this either it has no grip, or you'd expect it to maybe have like crazy amount of maglev, maybe magnetic rails or something grip. But it has indeed been a fantastic race, and here it is, race results on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, and just as quickly as they appeared, they went away again. So I'm gonna make sure to Steve Gaming, no penalty. That's very impressive indeed. Indeed, very impressive. Now here it is, the race results. Thomas beating Lewis by 3.8 seconds. It is Cubitom in third place. In the end, losing out by 5 seconds. But of course, could have been a bit more had it not been for Thomas seemingly slowing down in the final two four chicanes. There is Steve Gaming fourth in front of the two Aries LMPs driven by first Olegna, then Stevie, and then Manthe of TX3 fame in seventh in the LMP class. In the GTs, what a show we had. Super GT taking the win in front of either Shoma or Bellin. Depends on what Kenni calls in the end there. And it's Sky Pigman fourth, Stefansi from TX3 in fifth position, Kerr finishing sixth, and Aries in seventh and last position in the GT class. But what a race indeed we've had. And with that said, I think it's time that we go check out how much has been donated to the PayPal pool. Of course, you can still head on to PayPal, and if you feel like, if you can, if you have the opportunity to, please consider making a donation to help Driven to Cure, to support Driven to Cure in their quest to fund and raise awareness with cancers, kidney cancers, with young people in particular. So I'm trying to open the PayPal link as we speak, or as I speak, since I'm the only one speaking. But anyway, thanks anyone for tuning in. It's been great having you along. It's been a great show. I hope you agree with me on that one. Do please hit the like button if you like what we've done here tonight for you. And if you feel like it, well, feel very free to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to get notified when we're doing our next stream here on Have the Race Gone. It's been so good seeing all the... Yeah, it's 500 euros coming in, I can see, through the PayPal. So that's... and it might even be more, I guess. But it's fantastic to see all the donations that's come through for the cause. And of course, thank you all for that. And I think with that, well, for me, DirtenDK here on Have the Race Gone, all that remains to be said is thanks a lot for joining in with us here tonight. We will be back up with more GT Sports streaming on Saturday as we bring you the VRR Virtual Reality Racing Super GT Series. It's going to be the 300 kilometers of Autopolis Multiclass as well, with both the GT 500 and 300 cars running. So no doubt it's going to be a blast. Do tune in if you feel like it, have the time, have the want, the need for more HTRG. So from me, DirtenDK, until now, take care, have fun, and until then it is, take care, have fun, and bye-bye everyone.